Hey, what's up, guys? So, President Ramaphosa, yeah, he's a gift that keeps on giving, especially for people like us who are on the sidelines, happily so, and just giving commentary on some of these things. He said the thing. He said to the ANC councillors at some meeting that they just need to do what the DA does, right? Just do what the DA does.
Those municipalities that do best are not ANC-controlled municipalities. And I can name it here because there's nothing wrong with competition. They are often DA-controlled municipalities. We need to ask ourselves, what is it that they are doing that is better than what we are doing? And there's nothing wrong with us saying we want to go and see what Cape Town is doing. We want to go and see what Stellenbosch is doing. How do they craft everything? We need to be moving up the ladder of being good at what we do. We cannot forever stay at the bottom. It hurts me deeply when I continue to see that our municipalities sometimes tend to move even backwards.
It's this comment that has sparked debate among some.
So the first thing that I'm going to say here is that I would also be quite pissed if I was a councillor sitting in that meeting and Ramaphosa of all people. I would also be quite annoyed. Because what I'm going to say here, number one, is that the underperformance of ANC-run municipalities is speaking to a broader issue of the organization itself. I don't necessarily think it's Councillor A, Councillor B. This is just my observation, right? I think there is a huge sort of ANC system fault or flaw that leads to the fact that wherever there is an ANC sort of majority, right, across different areas in this country, you go to KZN, you go to Limpopo, you go to the Northwest, you're seeing a pattern. You go to Eastern Cape, you're seeing a pattern. I think for me, it speaks to just a broader ANC system or culture issue here, which does not exonerate Ramaphosa or Gwede Mantashe. In fact, they are the ones that would take a far bigger responsibility, because when you talk about an organization and the culture of the organization, that is 100% influenced by the leadership. If the leadership is off, the leadership is here and there, that obviously does cascade down and then it impacts everyone else. And this culture issue stems from the fact that ANC is not on functional mode. They're not a party that is focused on delivering results and being functional, right? If that was the case, this issue, they would not have these problems, number one. I even said on my Twitter account that they would not adopt ideologies of communism or whatever, because just go read up on those things. It just does not work. So if ANC was focused on functionality, growth, and that was really what they were serious about, because in theory they say it. They say they want to deliver. They say they want to serve people. But if that was really the intention, they would not be coming across these things are small issues. Councillors, and this is small issues, right? But what the problem is in the system is that they are primarily focused on, one, abuse of power. That's their thing. They abuse power, manipulate power, get their comrades in that don't deserve to be there. Money. That is their main thing. Cadre deployment is another one. And then they tell people that we are a party of transformation. We are a party of redress. I will never ever forget Pakstow. This is last year, just after the GNU was finalizing everything. Pakstow goes, I think, was talking to EWN and says, well, the African National Congress's position going into this GNU, because now they've head on there with the DA and all these other people who want to push capitalism and all of that. They were like, hey, Tina, we don't do that. We are a redress first and then economic growth after. You wonder why our economies aren't growing, right? Because ANC said, we want to redress first and then grow after. So that just speaks to prioritization. That just speaks to mentality. That speaks to the culture. So when you think that way, when you move in that direction, you just cannot have functional municipalities, accountability at the same time. And what becomes problematic with this approach is that local government, which is where municipalities then exist, is all about management, not the politics. It's about the management. And in fact, I made a note just to, drive my point, an analogy using security states. which many of us, especially in urban areas, are quite familiar with. I'm a complex. We're quite familiar with how they operate, right? Whether you visit or whatever. In complexes, especially if you look at the system where the development companies hires out an estate management company, and not necessarily if it's through the resident election sort of board. If you have like a formal hired company that does estate management, sometimes, in fact, 80% of the time, you don't have to worry about anything. The refuse, the signage, water flowing to the estate, these things are often taken care of, and you don't even have to think twice as the resident of that area. Security, right? Managing the access, who's coming in, who's coming out. Those things are often taken care of. You pay levies to the estate manages the entire system. And like I said, you don't even think twice. Refuse in some instances, because I've got friends all over the place, is managed on a daily basis. On a daily basis, your refuse is collected, the bins never get full. Pest control, another very important one, because hey, if you're living amongst people, especially in shared spaces, pest control becomes critical. These things are often taken care of. The upkeep of the external painting, making sure that the drainage and all of these things, you never have to worry about it, right? And it's very easy to not really take note, or, because it's not a problem. And that is just how that's a model of a local government sort of function, which is 100% management. Because some of the time you don't even know who's managing it. You don't even think about demographics, how many whites, you don't even think of those things. You paying your levies, you want the service. Now, with that analogy of estates and complexes, just imagine if communities were managed in the same way. Just imagine the relief, because small communities, especially like the municipal levels, right? There is a lot of potential for economic growth, for people to be able to thrive without having to leave their communities or leave their towns and move into bigger cities. There is a lot of opportunity. If you take East, West, North, Johannesburg, those can be different economic zones servicing different industries if they were better managed and well coordinated. That's a fact. In fact, even if you take the instance of, say, estates, many people will say, no, estates valid, levies are expensive. In some cases in South Africa, of course, there is inequality. People are not earning the same rate and all of that. There is a national contribution. National does contribute to municipalities. In fact, I looked up the stats here, and it is about 8% of the national budget that is pumped into local government, into municipalities. And even in the case whereby some municipalities are not getting enough from ratepayers, if they don't have enough ratepayers, for example, in that municipality, there are other funds that are available, other grant sort of type funds that are available for municipalities to tap into those funds to be able to do the basics, fix your road, fix your water systems, fix your drainage, and all of these things. And what is clear, as Ramaphosa is stating to his comrades there that, hey, you guys are struggling, is that it is a poor management problem and not necessarily a lack of resources, a lack of money. It's just poor management. And lastly, what I will say, especially for us as now the voter base, because now we on the sidelines, the show is happening over there. When it comes to local government, I know local government is a hot topic. In fact, I'm filming this day before the Democratic Alliance announces their candidate for Johannesburg. They've announced their candidate for City of Tshwane. PA has announced their candidate for Joburg. It's Kenny Kunene. They announced their candidate for Cape Town. So it's a hot topic, right? So there's a lot of conversation, all of that. Local government, for us as the voters, management has to be the most important thing, right? And I know management is kind of difficult to measure, especially as someone who's on the sidelines. But, this Auditor General reports, I looked at it, not really in detail, but there's something there for you to just get a gist, especially because Auditor General can, for example, say X amount of municipalities are good in terms of what they submitted. So they can be like 6 that are good. The 4 that are regarded as bad in the basic stuff, as just as simple as filing a report, those guys are a no-go. You just don't do it. If a municipality is getting 0 on just filing a report, not managing the money or whatever, not getting the right vendor, if they're just not able to crack it on filing a good report, why are you voting for that person? You just have to say, if whoever was involved when that report was supposed to be done, I don't want to hear your story. That's the scrutiny that we need to apply when it comes to local government, because track record stems from these very AG reports. I'll also say that transparency becomes another important part when it comes to councillors, because councillors are supposed to be close to the people as much as possible, right? National, I get it, we're a big country, but local, we're supposed to know who your councillor is. They're supposed to be accessible. You need to know what they look like, who they are, contact details. Just that part of transparency is another problem for me. In fact, I don't even pay much attention to local government because I'm like, what? It's just such a spectacle, especially if you live in the city of Johannesburg, which is where I'm based at the moment. So that becomes really important. In fact, I remember watching an episode on Carte Blanche. Carte Blanche was interviewing a mayor in some town in the Eastern Cape. I forgot which town. And this person had no idea that the cemetery, which is again part of a function to make sure that there's upkeep. Remember the whole example of the estate, upkeep, painting and all of that? Cemetery is one of those. You have to make sure that cemeteries are it's part of, you own it. It's your management area. This mayor had no idea. Carte Blanche went ahead, filmed what they saw, came back and asked, are you aware of what the cemetery looks like? This is now a cemetery that has even ANC stalwarts laying there, right? So just that detachment from what is happening in your community, because I don't know, I don't know, she probably just wakes up in the morning, goes to the office, goes on Instagram and doesn't, and that's the problem. You need people that are on the ground, people that understand, people that are transparent, accessible. And when you're accessible, you will know what's happening in and around your community. So these are the things that we need to look at as we sort of go into or head closer into voting for local municipalities. Cool, guys. Please like this video and subscribe. Just a reminder before you go. And yeah, thanks for checking out this video. I will see you guys again soon.